does that even mean, Bauer's Game Corner?
Ahoy there, YouTube! I'm back again today for another game review. And today I'm very excited for checking out Colosseum from Tasty Minstrel Games. This is for 3 to 5 players. Age is 14 plus. It'll take about 60 to 90 minutes to play. And in Colosseum, you are going to be running your own Colosseum. You're going to be putting on shows, getting season ticket holders to come, investing in various different things, rolling and moving, trading and bidding, and doing all sorts of different mechanisms. Now, this was originally put out by Days of Wonder, and it's pretty popular. However, it went out of print. Tasty Minstrel Games picked it up and is now reprinting it. Did they do it justice? Is the game still going to stand the test of time? Let's open it up, check it out, and I'll tell you what I think. Alrighty then, we're going to take a look at what's going to get inside of the new version of Colosseum. So first and foremost, we're going to our handy dandy rule booklet, 15 pages, double-sided, full color, full of pictures, illustrations, examples, gorgeous artwork, and it's okay. It could be better. It's got some quirks here and there, which I'll talk more about in the pros and cons, which make it a little bit more difficult to use than it should be. Nothing game-breaking or major, but still a bunch of minor things that were a little bit annoying. So in Colosseum, you are going to be running your very own Colosseum, and you are going to be putting on shows with lions and tigers and scenery and cages and gladiators and comedians and all sorts of stuff like that, hoping to lure famous emperors and sultans to your thing, building up your Colosseum with more seats and various other different things like that in order to get the most points at the end of the game. Now, the point structure in this game is very interesting in the aspect that your points don't accumulate. So if you score 15 points on round 1, 25 points on round 2, 22 points on round 3, and then 40 points on round 5, say, for instance, your score at the end of the game would be 40 points. So each round you have the potential to put on a show, score a bunch of points, but you only move your score tracker to that number if you have never gotten that high before. So you're essentially going to have 5 rounds to put on shows, and whichever of your shows scores the most points, that is how many points you are going to earn at the end of the game and hopefully win the game. So there's a lot of components going on here. We're going to go over a bunch of the different components, and then I'll go through the 5 different phases of the game. We're just going to kind of brush stuff off, and I'll show you how it works. So first and foremost, we have coins, coins, coins. I want to give a huge shout out to these coins right here. Oh my goodness. Yeah, those are nice metal engraved coins. Why would I grab the smallest one? Those are, oh, so nice. Really stepping up the coin game there, Tasty Minstrel. So yeah, I just wanted to show you those before we get down to the nitty gritty. Next, you're going to have this game board in front of you. This is really where you're going to have a lot of information. It's going to go over, and this is a big game board, cheat sheet board. It's going to go over all the different phases, what you can purchase, what you can do. And on the back, it's going to go over a bunch of the different potential shows that you will be able to put on in your Colosseum, because you will be able to upgrade your Colosseum, and as you upgrade your Colosseum, you will have more room to put on more elaborate, expensive shows that will gain you more money and more points. Next, you are going to have all these little tiles right here. You'll start off with some of these randomly, and as you can see, there are some in the middle of the board as well. And these are what you're going to need to put on your shows. So let's take a look at one of the shows you're going to start with. You start with either an 11-point or 12-point show. So this one needs 3 comedians, 1 torch, 2 scenery, and if you have all that, you will gain 12 points. If you're missing one of these, you will gain 10 points. If you're missing 2 of these, you'll gain 8 points, 5 points, 2 points, etc. So you can put on a really crummy show just to earn money, but it's not going to help you endgame scoring-wise. When you complete a show, you'll flip it over, and then since you now have, people who enjoy your shows, you now have an additional 5 every time you put on a show, which is pretty cool. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. So next, let's take a look at the board. We have the score track around the outside. Everybody's going to have one of these things to keep track of their score. You're going to have these little sultans down here. I don't remember what the heck they're called, actually. We got the white leather consoles, I don't know, kings, princes, whatever. They're very, very nice. I like this guy, how sad he is. He's like, oh, I'm so sad. But you're going to be rolling in it, moving these guys, actually, to try to get them into your arena, because they will gain you more money, and they will also gain you some other things depending on where you land them. We'll talk more about that later. So I think we've done enough talking about the various different components. Let's go over the 5 different phases of the game. So the first phase is called the investing phase, and this is where you are going to purchase something. So the first thing you can do is you can buy a new event program. program. Now, this is one of the things that's not really clearly explained in the rules, whether or not they're random or you can look at them and then purchase them or how that works. But what you need to know is this is going to be the cost right here to purchase it. That's how much money it'll earn you. I already went over this a little bit, but that's what you can do. So during the investment phase, everyone is going to have the opportunity to buy one thing. That thing is either going to be a new show to put on. They will be able to pay 10 coins to expand their arena, which will allow them to purchase bigger events that they can put on. They can purchase season tickets, which are these things right here. And they look really cool, aesthetically pleasing. You purchase them, you put them there, and then from now on, each show you put on is going to have 5 more spectators, which will give you $5 more, 5 more victory points. So those things don't go away, and they can really help you in the game. Last but not least, on this phase, you can construct, what are these called? The Emperor's Log, which this is where, emperors want to stand on there, because if you get emperors to your show, it's going to get you more money, more victory points, but having this is going to allow you to roll 2 dice instead of 1 dice in a later phase, and I'll show you how that works a little bit later. So that's the investment phase. Everyone is going to have the opportunity to buy something. So next, you are going to acquire event asset tokens. How this works is there is going to be an auction out here, and whoever is the first player, the active player as they like to, is going to be the active player. The first player will be the active player, and they are going to decide which of these they would like to start the bid on. You have to start a bid of at least 8. From that point, it's a pretty typical auction. 8, 9, pass. Once you pass, you can't bid. However, where this gets interesting is if the active player, the person who picks which one you're bidding on, does not win a bid. So let's just say this one goes for 12 coins, but the active player doesn't win it. Then the active player is going to pick another one of these to bid on, and everyone except for the guy that already won one will get to bid. So in theory, the prices should get cheaper as the active player doesn't win it. Once the active player finally wins one of the bids that they placed, you're going to refill this with more tiles, and then the next player will get a chance to be the active player, and then the next player will get a chance to be the active player. Essentially how this works is each and every player is going to have the opportunity to be the active player, put 3 of these tiles up for bid, and then win them. However, if you have enough money, you can actually win a lot of them even before you become the active player. It's a very interesting auction system. I will say that is one of those things that I have a couple quirks with in the rules. I'll mention that more in the pros and cons. Most of these are pretty self-explanatory: music, gladiators, chariots, stuff like that. However, there are also 3 special tiles that you will run into. First, you got this little gem. This counts as a wild. These ones are awesome, especially early game. This one right here is going to count as I think it's called the King's Medal. Let me see. I don't remember what they're called. The Emperor's Medallion. That's what it is. So if you have this, you essentially are bidding on this. Now, this is a special token that will allow you to do one of 3 things. Either you can add +3 to your attendance when you put on a show. It will allow you to move the consoles 1 to 3 spaces, either forward or backward, which can be very powerful, especially if you go last, or it's worth 6 coins. So when you see this, it's always worth 6 coins, but it also can do potentially some other special things. The last thing you can do with it is, I believe, if you turn in 2 of these, you can make an additional purchase during the purchase round. Buy another show, buy more stands, buy something like that. So once everyone has had the opportunity, and then this one right here, that one is either going to give you a medallion, or it will allow you to make an additional purchase during the investment phase. So this one is arguably way more valuable than that one because it will give you a medallion or an additional purchase, which is really nice. So continuing on, once everyone has had a chance to be an active player and win the bid or pass the bid, because you can pass, next you get to the trading event asset tokens phase. And this is kind of a wheeling and dealing phase where each player is going to have an opportunity to be the active trader and to try and pull off trades with either these or with money. You can't trade away your star actors or anything like that. I'll talk more about those a little bit later. You can't throw away your shows for some reason, but you're going to be trading away these and money, and it's kind of free form. That's one of the cons that I have with the game. I personally recommend that everybody just kind of wheels and deals at the same time because it speeds up the game a good deal. But the way the rules have it is that each person gets the opportunity to be the active trader. So once everybody's gotten the opportunity to be the active trader, you finally get to producing an event. So before you do that, you are going to roll a die. You either roll 1 die, or if you built the Emperor's Log during the investment phase, you're going to roll 2 dice. So Well, how you do this is you roll the 1 die, and you get to move one of these guys 2 spaces. Now, there's a couple things you really want to try and do here. You want to try and get one of these guys into your arena, because if you do, that will gain you extra audience, assuming that person is there when you put on a show. If you get the big sultan in there, you get +7. If you get the pink guy, you get +5, and the white guy +3. But what you can also do is if you ever land somebody on their space, so let's just say that this white guy finally lands right here, then boom, you earn one of these medals, which is instantly worth 6 coins, or potentially something even better that can help you out later. The only catch is you can only earn one of these per turn. You can also use it to kind of screw over people so that they don't land in their spaces and do some other different stuff like that. Once everybody's had the turn to be the active roller and rolled the dice or the 2 dice, you are going to move on to this select event and then create the event. So what you're going to do is you're going to look at your event, you're going to see how many of these you have, and then you are going to earn points based on that. So for instance, let's just say I actually had 3 comedians, 1 torch, 2 sceneries, and this guy right here. With that being the case, I would earn 12 victory points / coins and 3 for him. So I would move myself on the score track up to the number 15, and I also would gain 15 coins. So putting on shows is going to give you more money. Next, you would flip this tile over, and from now on, each time you put on a show, you are going to be able to have +5 to each show. So do you want to go for a really big show? Do you want to go for a bunch of little small shows? It's up to you. Now, one last thing I forgot to mention before we get out of here is there's these guys right here, which are talented performance. If you ever get 3 of a kind of some specific tiles, you will gain one of these. So for instance, if you had 3 of a kind of the gladiators, then you would get the gladiator title for having the best gladiator, and more people want to come see the best gladiator. However, if someone comes up and has more than you, then this immediately passes to them. But once you get 3 of a kind, you get this, and once someone goes over you, you lose it. Now, one last thing I forgot to mention about producing a show, one cool thematic element, is you don't actually turn in your tiles when you produce a show, because you can reuse these. Obviously, if you have 3 comedians, you put on a comedic show, those 3 comedians don't die, generally. That's not how it works. However, what is going to happen, for instance, in this example, if I use 3 comedians, 1 torch, and 2 scenery, is that something's going to happen. Maybe the torch got burnt out. I have to lose one of the tiles I used on the show, which is not a big deal. Last aspect is the closing ceremony. You're going to discard 1 event access token that you used in your show. The leading player is going to earn a podium, so whoever is in first place is going to get one of these to put in there, which will give you +3. And then also what kind of stinks is whoever's in last place is going to get to take one of the tiles, one of these tiles from whoever is in first place, kind of a catch-up mechanism. You advance the round tracker, pass the first player marker, rinse, wash, repeat. Whoever has the biggest show over the course of 5 rounds will be the winner of Colosseum. And that, in a nutshell, is how the game is played. Alrighty then, Colosseum from Tasty Minstrel Games. What are my final thoughts? Let's go over the pros, let's go over the cons. First, on the con side, 3 to 5 players, very restricted player count, will be a turnoff to some people. Now, let's get down to the components, which for the most part I'm going to gloat over like crazy. However, the rule booklet has some quirks in it which really annoy me, especially considering this is a reprint of a game. And whenever I see a game is reprinted and the rules don't change that much, I feel like the rule booklet should be outstanding. It'd be like if you had a version of Munchkin and the rules were bad and you'd be like, this is your 25th version of Munchkin. How is this bad? I feel like they should have just built off of those rules and made them even better. However, there's a couple various different things. So there's like a setup mess up where they just had a mislabeled letter. How do the tiles go out? Like these tiles right here, they don't specifically say if they're face up, if they're face down, if everyone can look at them and then buy exactly what they want, which I assume, and that's how we played, how it's supposed to work, but they should be clear in the rule booklet with how investing in these shows works. Next, during the bidding phase, we had this actually come up each time, I think it came up 3 of the times we played, where what if an active player loses and then they pass? Do you still replenish everything else for the new active player? It's not addressed in the rules. Also, what if the last person who is the active player just decides to pass after losing a bid? So the market is not completely full. Do you refill that? Do you not refill that? Just some questions that we didn't find answered in the rule booklet, little things like that. Some other cons I had with the game, non-component wise, I do worry a little bit about people doing too much end game planning once they know how the game works, just planning for that one huge show instead of, building shows progressively. It's not a huge thing, but I think if you played a lot of games of this, you might see that happen. Also, I wish the trading was more free form and more open. You can only trade coins and you can only trade like your assets like comedians and whatnot. I wish it was just more open and free form. Especially, and this is a house rule that I would recommend and that we immediately started doing the second game, is that you can trade all willy-nilly. Everybody can trade, and it's just the wild, wild west of trading. Because what happens is you'll have someone who's not very good at trading, and it will slow the game down to a screeching halt. Because the game's not generally that slow of a game, but if you have someone who's not good at trading or not willing to end their trading turn, it can slow the game down. The last con I have with this game is that the game doesn't do anything amazing. It does a lot of things. It does a lot of things really, really good and great, but there's nothing in this game that is whoa or amazing. It's just everything comes together, moving on to the pros, to form a really great game. I'm not going to say it's an amazing game, but this is a great game, and this is a game that I can very easily recommend to you if you were looking for a medium weight 60 to 90 minute 3 to 5 player game. I think this one is an outstanding one in that aspect. So, why do I like the game? First and foremost, we got to talk about the components. The components are absolutely outstanding. Reprinting a Days of Wonder game. What? That's insane! They have beautiful artwork, they have beautiful components, and Tasty Minstrel Games managed to do it. So huge thumbs up on that. Everything from top to bottom, aside from the rule booklet quirks, is outstanding component-wise in this game. They give you extra stickers that you can put on these guys if you want. These guys already look fantastic. They give you extra tiles that you can set aside. Just everything is very, very well done. Beautiful artwork. Huge thumbs up on the components. Now, gameplay-wise, I talked about how nothing is done outstanding in this game, but everything in this game, every little aspect of this game is good to great, and it's done very well, and it melds together very well. The theme comes across. I love when the theme in games come across, especially when you might not expect it. Like, you see this game and you're like, oh yeah, fighting dragons, or not dragons, lions or tigers, and that's not what this game is about. It's about putting on these shows, but thematically, all the different components, all the things you can invest in and purchase on, everything makes sense. And I love that aspect of the game. I love the investment phase. How do you want to do it? Do you want to get those season tickets, which is going to churn you more and more money? Do you want to get more shows, or do you want to do a big show, or do you want to do a bunch of little shows and then work towards a big show? Do you want to try and stockpile various different goods and then try and trade them off, all wheeling and dealing? How do you want to play the game? The game lets you do it for the most part, and I like that. Oh, one last quirk I have of the rule booklet, which is annoying, and I do want to mention it. So at the back of the rule booklet, it has a breakdown of all of the different event assets, like the comedians and the lions and whatnot. These are not all correct. That actually screwed someone up the first time we played, because it says that there's only 7 comedians in the game. And so that guy was like, oh, I'm going to stockpile all these comedians. I'm going to stockpile them up. And then we hit comedian number 8 and 9 and 10 and 11 and 12, and we're like, ooh, yeah, sorry about that, buddy. But anywho, moving back onto the pros, awesome components. Everything in this game works really well. 69 minutes, I'd say that is just about right. I liked it at all the different player counts. Everything looks good. Everything plays good. It has a lot of replayability. And I think, while this is not a gateway game, I legitimately think this is a step-up game if you are a good teacher of games. There's nothing here that is too terribly difficult to understand, and it all comes together very well. So Colosseum, Tasty Minstrel Games. Very pleased to say, A, the game does stand the test of time, and B, the reprint is absolutely outstanding component artwork-wise. So that is Colosseum from Tasty Minstrel Game, the one that will be on my shelf for quite a long time, and one that I think you definitely might want to come get now that it's back in print. If you enjoyed this review, please be sure to click on that subscribe button down below or in the comments below. Let me know if you were in a Colosseum. What would your strategy be? You're up against a tiger, a barbarian, and, I don't know, let's see, 6 comedians. So the 6 comedians are working together. There's a tiger, there's a barbarian. Huge, we'll say it's about the size of a football field. What is your strategy? Do you try and go for the comedians and try to stay away from the lion? Do you try to stay away from the barbarian? For me personally, I try to befriend those comedians, secretly stab them in the back whenever I see an open opportunity. But what would you do in that scenario? Let me know. And as always, thanks for your time, YouTube. That's what I say at the end of videos.